all across America and around the world. This is Veterans Radio. This is Veterans Radio.
Welcome to Veterans Radio. I am Jim Fausone. I'm the officer of the deck today. We've got some great programs for you. I think you'll find very interesting. We always want to remind you can find more about Veterans Radio at its Facebook site or by going to veteransradio.net, where we're on the web 24/7. You can find a lot of our podcasts there as well. We post new ones every Tuesday, so you can get a new story, a new interview, something you didn't know before by going to veteransradio.net. And before we get started, we want to thank our sponsors. First up, we want to thank National Veteran Business Development Council, nvbdc.org. It was established to certify both service-disabled and veteran-owned businesses. You'll find out how they can help your business by going to nvbdc.org. We want to thank Legal Help for Veterans. Legal Help for Veterans fights for veterans' disability rights all across the nation. You can reach them at 800-693-4800 or on the web at legalhelpforveterans.com. We want to welcome to Veterans Radio Cesar Rodriguez Jr., Colonel, retired from the United States Air Force after 26 years. Colonel, welcome to Veterans Radio.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate the opportunity to share some nuggets of both wisdom and buffoonery.
Well, as we were saying earlier, you want to learn from your mistakes, and
exactly.
That's one of those lessons that sometimes takes a while to figure out. Hey, I shouldn't repeat the same mistake. But as an Air Force fighter pilot, you don't want to make the same mistake. You don't get a chance to do it twice. And the colonel here is the only U.S. fighter pilot of the modern era credited with downing 3 enemy fourth-generation fighter aircraft, 2 in 2 different campaigns in Iraq, AF MiG-29, Iraqi AF MiG-23, and a Yugoslavian Air Force MiG-29. So you got a chance to mix it up with some folks over your 26 years.
I have. I've had the opportunity to do that. But first, let me back up a second and just correct your math. 2 + 1 = 3. That's how many I have. I didn't get 2 in my second campaign, but I do have 3 credited air-to-air kills. But you have them correct. 2 in Desert Storm and 1 in Operation Allied Force over the skies of Yugoslavia. But yeah, I've had that opportunity. But I kind of go back to some of the basic run rules that my dad instilled in myself and in my brothers and sisters. It's about paying attention to what you're doing. It's okay to make mistakes, but don't repeat your mistakes. And so I owe the good fortune of my 3 air-to-air accredited kills to a bunch of people along the way, from instructor pilots to weapons school instructors, to commanders, to wingmen, to young airmen who prepared the jets and did all the other things associated with and getting the mission ready. I owe them great credit because at any step along the way, they could have said, no mas, no more for me, or they could have just said, I'm having a bad day. I don't want to give it my full attention. And that chain of events would have broken. And in most cases in the air-to-air business, when the chain of events breaks at some point, the end result is that you become the loser. You either are coming home or coming down out of the sky in a parachute, if you're lucky, or you perish with your airplane in a big, huge fireball. And so I owe it to them for for those three successes and many other successes in my life. But those are the three that I think ultimately have given me the opportunity to have a platform to share my lessons learned and also to share my culture.
Well, let me jump back. We started with sort of the highlight reel, but let me jump back. How does a nice kid like you, born in Texas, graduated from high school in Puerto Rico, end up in the Air Force?
Well, I guess the answer is the Army missed out on a great opportunity. But the real truth is, I'm an Army brat. My father served for 24 years and ultimately retired in Puerto Rico, which is his hometown, and which is what I call now my home, which is where the rest of my family, my extended family, lives. And so I grew up around the military all my life. So when I selected to go to the Citadel, military was definitely a piece of the formula. One, I knew that the Citadel was going to bring discipline and rigor to a 17-and-a-half-year-old wild and crazy captain of the football team, captain of the baseball team, president of the senior class. All of that was playing out, but rigor and discipline in the form of long-term life career goals was kind of missing, and so the Citadel was that for me. And so halfway through my sophomore year, we had the opportunity to take a variety of officer qualification exams, and in my case, I did very, very well in my Air Force officer qualification exam, scored high enough to be selected to go to flight school. And that's when I made the transition from Army program to Air Force program. And obviously do not regret having made that decision at all. So that's how I got to the Air Force.
Well, and we recently had the chance to talk to the Citadel's new Commandant of Cadets, retired Colonel Tom Gordon. And so there's a great podcast about the Citadel that if people want to know more about it. But it is sort of rooted in that, giving you that foundation. Maybe you got it from your dad being an Army man. You just have to have a solid foundation to build on, don't you?
Well, you do, or at least you have to choose the path that helps you build that foundation. And while I had I feel like I had great discipline growing up, I also had many self-initiated distractions that the average teenager probably has, no matter what generation you were born in. But it was the decision to go to the Citadel and stay in a military program and focus on a 4-year degree and an eventual career as an officer in some service. I didn't have a decision yet when I made the initial selection of the Citadel, but all of those came together little by little. But there was a point where I could have said no. I would rather go to University X and try the 6 or 7 year program, but I chose to go to the Citadel. And then what the Citadel taught me, besides more about myself as an individual, many of the lessons that I learned at the Citadel really brought great calm to me in my airplane in combat, and I gained great strength from what I learned at the Citadel and the friends that I made at the Citadel that ultimately served me well beyond just the 4 years of being a cadet.
Well, and sort of buried in that answer is you didn't take the easy way out. A lot of life
Correct.
Choices require you to take the road less traveled or the harder road. But to be accomplished in anything, let alone as a fighter pilot, you really have to put in the time. And I think you have something like 3,100 fighter flight hours. Again, it is a difficult, at times challenging, to get to the top of the game, isn't it?
It is, and it doesn't happen overnight. And your position, if you will, in using your analogy, at the top of your game, that position only lasts as long as you choose for it to, by giving up or by changing your course of action to something, to something that isn't challenging you. So just to make it through flight school was 10 times harder than anything I ever did at the Citadel. And I always tell people that the 10 months that I spent at flight school felt like, 2 times 8 years of being at the Citadel. It was that hard. It was that mentally challenging and that physically challenging. And then it stayed that way all the way up through my career. You learn how to handle those stresses through the experiences. But as I tell people, every night one mission that I flew was different, and each one of them, if you don't mind me using a French word here and there, each one of them I was scared shitless.
Yeah, and I think at times people don't realize that that's what you have to work through to get to the other side. You can't quit. You can't say, "Oh, I'm scared. I'm going to quit." No, you have to work your way through it, don't you, Colonel?
You've got to work your way through it because, in the end, when you look at the performance of each individual, each organization, each nation that comes to combat, if you in this example, you don't have the luxury of sitting on the sideline. Everybody has been tapped on the shoulder to play in the game, in the art of war, and so stepping forward is it's not an option. It's a requirement, and that's really, that applies not only in flying jets, but it applies in the boardrooms of America's greatest companies. It applies, on the parking lots of the many volunteer organizations that help our nation and help our people today. You have to be all in, and that's not easy. And I guess I kind of thrived on that all-in concept because there was every day I looked forward to putting on my boots and my flight suit and coming to work. Every day I looked forward to flying the best jet that I could, even though I knew I wasn't the best guy in the squadron or the best guy in the flight that day. Because I knew those who were in charge of providing instruction and critiquing my performance were doing it with the same intentions of making me a better pilot and ultimately a better commander, and then eventually a better member of the executive team for the companies that I work for. So it really is more than a full contact sport.
Well, and you have to seize every opportunity, and whether those opportunities present themselves at a time and a place that you want them, or sometimes they're opportunities and you don't want them. You don't realize they were really opportunities till later. And I suspect as you were going through your career and being sent to all kinds of different bases and being asked to do different things, maybe not everything seemed like an opportunity, a good opportunity at the time.
You're spot on, and that's where the role of a mentor really comes to play, because I can tell you in my final 2 or 3 assignments in the Air Force, I questioned some of the locations and decisions that were being made. And I was blessed to have had mentors, both as officers and senior enlisted members, along my career. And so the opportunity to talk to my mentors and hear it through another lens, hear it through their words and their experiences, helped to shine the light on the opportunity. It didn't make the opportunity easier. It wasn't a gimme. It wasn't what I would call a layup scenario. It was you still have to earn, that next step. But if that door opens up for you, then you're the right person to go through that door and take on the challenge of being successful for your organization, for your people, for your heritage, and then later on for yourself. There was I read a book recently about the leaders eat last, and that's exactly the approach that my mentors would tell me. You're the right guy to go through that door, but the successes or the failures of that organization, if they're successes, they belong to everybody first, and then you second at the end. If they're failures, then you have to own them yourself first, so that you protect your people. And again, having those mentors throughout my career really did help to shine light where at the time I only saw darkness.
Well, and I think those mentors are folks both who have to present themselves, but you have to search out. And that's true for anybody who's listening. If you don't have somebody in your field that you think, hey, this is a guy or gal I can go ask for candid advice, kind of get mentorship from, you got to go search them out and find them. Because there are going to be times in every life, every career, that it's just dark. It just doesn't feel like it's going the right way for any variety of reasons. And you mentioned heritage, and I want to come back to that a little bit, because your successes are great. Everybody gets to, recognize them. But if you don't meet up to standards, then everybody goes, oh yeah, those guys from the Citadel, they can't do it. Those guys from Puerto Rico, they can't do it. Those guys from El Paso, Texas, where you were born, they can't do it. So you really do end up carrying a fair bit of weight on making sure that you are accomplishing goals that you want to accomplish, and that the heritage gets recognized as well. Did you feel that pressure?
I'll be honest with you, Jim. There was times there was that pressure, more so from what I would call the core, and as you indicated, I would use the Citadel or Puerto Rico or El Paso as the core. Sometimes the core was looking for you to do more because of what they were looking for, and so it became challenging, because sometimes you didn't know who was really behind those initiatives. I've always told my people and all my bosses that when I come through the door, the first thing they get is 110% Rico Rodrigues professional in whatever I'm doing, whether it's staff work or flying the jet or preparing for a meeting with the board of directors. You're going to get 110% there. You're also going to get 110% because Rico Rodrigues brings a lot to the table. And usually what I usually try to insinuate is, culturally, I'm not going to, leave it half empty. I'm going to fill it up. And so you have to be prepared for that, because some people aren't prepared for that. And so the pressure to make, not, I don't want to say everybody happy, but to address all of the participants that I have the honor to be a part of, whether it be in academics or cultural relationships. That pressure for me came as a second effect. The first effect was to be the best officer, the best fighter pilot, the best American soldier. That was the first effect. And I always said, if I did all of that right, then everybody else has to be happy or has to be okay with whatever they're either asking for or I'm insinuating or thinking that they're asking
absolutely.
For.
You referenced being, an athlete in your youth, and I'll go back to that phrase we all would use back then: is we want to leave it all on the field. We don't want anybody in our community, whatever that community is, and that community invests in you whether you know it or not. You want that community to say, he did his best. He left it all on the field, and I think that's what I'm hearing you say. Whether it was out of you didn't want the Citadel, you didn't want Puerto Rico, you didn't want Texas, you didn't want your Hispanic heritage. Anybody to say he didn't do his best, or he didn't leave it all on the field. He only played at 70%. So I think that's
100%. That's 100% spot on. And that's really the definition of a team being successful, is when all of the individuals on the team leave it on the field 100%, and then under the orchestration of whether it be a coach or a teacher or a commander, whoever's orchestrating it, when everybody's at 100%, then you're a better organization, and your chances of success are much, much higher than if you just kind of do a free-for-all and say, well, just give me what you got and we'll see where we go from there. No, you got to come with that approach to put it all on the table and go from there.
Yeah, that's that 110% you were talking about, leaving it all on the field.
And that, what I call that 110%, 10%, I always, I've always meant this to be a part of my dialogue with my team and those who looked up to me, is 100% is the given. It's what we're going to always do. That 10% is what makes Rico Rodrigues uniquely different than somebody else who's wearing the same flight suit, who's the same height, same build. All that 10% of me being a Hispanic officer, the culture that I bring to the table, the understanding that 10% makes me uniquely better for the team. And I always ask everybody to make sure that they give us their 110%. I want all the different cultures involved. I want different languages as part of it. I want different religions. I want different ethnic groups. I want all those things that make us better as individuals. Because, man, when you really get that team together, there's no matching the potential for success. But if you leave that 10% at the table or at the door when you come in, and you don't bring it, then it's like you have just defined the weakest link.
Well, you're really talking about the uniqueness, if you will, of the American experiment. Everybody's got some 10%, and they need to bring that 10% to the table. I skipped over a lot in the resume. I want to touch on this because I got to get before I run out of time, and that is Colonel Rodrigues has always brought it 100%. He's picked up 2 master's degrees along the way. After retiring as a colonel from the United States Air Force, he did 16 years at Raytheon Missiles and Defense System as a VP. He finished up there and now runs a consulting enterprise, Splash 3 LLC, focused on domestic and global defense requirements, leadership principles, and motivational speaking. And when you take that whole package, you understand why my friends at Hispanic Veterans Leadership Alliance said, you got to talk to Rico. he's a Hispanic hyperachiever. So when other admirals and generals are saying you got to talk to this guy, you talk to this guy. Now, I don't think you necessarily like the terminology hyperachiever, but you've been so labeled it by many of your peers, so that's something to be proud of.
I'm very proud that they referenced me in that capacity. As I've said before, my hyper focus is about making sure that I'm openly engaged in the criticisms, in the opportunity, wherever somebody who I respect and I salute to in various roles, when they're giving me my annual feedback, my how to do it better, I am hyper focused on that, because the last thing I want to do is reinvent the wheel and make another mistake.
Well, I'm going to point out one more personal thing, and I'm going to give most of the credit, if not all the credit, to your wife. Rico's got a daughter who graduated from the United States Air Force Academy and is currently serving in the service, and a son who graduated from the University of Arizona in architect, which is not easy to do. But I'm giving all that credit to your wife.
I do too.
Yeah.
All of us who are on this call and listening as veterans, we all know that, we spent more time away from home than we wanted to. But the stability of the home is what ultimately gave us the power to succeed in the mission. And I try and remind folks that if you're not all in at home as well, and you're not focused on all the things that you can be doing, and I'm not saying I did that, but if you can't be there, then your life partner needs to be there with you. And I do give Trish all the credit for the successes of our kids.
Well, as many of us should. So, Colonel, thank you for spending some time with Veterans Radio this afternoon and talking about not only your career, some lessons learned, but how to grab opportunities and seek mentors and leave it all on the field, which is, I think, a message that hopefully has gotten across to everybody. Rico, thanks for the time today.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you for the opportunity, and to all the veterans and your significant others, thank you for your service and your commitment to our great nation. If there's ever anything I can do to help, Rico Rodrigues is always available to help.
Thank you, Rico. And I want to thank everybody for listening to Veterans Radio today. I am Jim Fausone. It's been a pleasure to be your host. I'm a veterans disability lawyer at Legal Help for Veterans, and you can reach us at 800-693-4800 or legalhelpforveterans.com on the web. You can follow Veterans Radio on Facebook and listen to its podcasts and internet radio shows by going to veteransradio.net. And until next time, you are dismissed.
If you have a VA claim denied by the Board of Veterans' Appeals, contact Legal Help for Veterans at 1-800-693-4800. They're experts in handling cases before the U.S. Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims. Their number again, 1-800-693-4800.
We again want to thank our national sponsors, the National Veterans Business Development Council, NVBDC.org, VA Ann Arbor Health Care System, the Vietnam Veterans of America Charles S. Kettles Chapter, Ann Arbor, Michigan, VFW Graf O'Hara Post 423 in Ann Arbor, and the American Legion Press Corn Post 46, also in Ann Arbor. We appreciate all your support. You can go to veteransradio.net, click on the sponsor level, and continue to support keeping Veterans Radio on the air. And until next time, you are dismissed.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What do you do when you win? Like, are you a fist pumper? A woohooer, a hand clapper, a high fiver. I kind of like the high five, but if you want to hone in on those winning moves, check out Chumba Casino. At ChumbaCasino.com, choose from hundreds of social casino style games for your chance to redeem serious cash prizes. There are new game releases weekly, plus free daily bonuses. So don't wait. Start having the most fun ever at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.